Every day, the world is fighting for your attention. News, noise, notifications, opinions, pressure. And if you're not careful, you will spend your entire life reacting to chaos instead of creating peace. Because the greatest battle of your life is not happening outside, it is happening inside your mind. My friends, we live in a world that never stops moving. Phones buzzing, deadlines chasing us. People judging us, expectations suffocating us. And slowly, without realizing it, we allow the outside world to control the inside world. But here is a simple truth. Peace is not found in a quiet world. Peace is found in a disciplined mind. So today, I want to share 7 lessons that will help you protect your mind from daily chaos. Not theory, but wisdom that can transform the way you live. Every day, without even realizing it, your mind becomes a marketplace, crowded with voices, shouting for attention. Some are loud, demanding, urgent, messages from your phone, emails, the news, social media alerts, the endless chatter of people with opinions about your life. Others are soft, subtle, whispering doubts and insecurities that worm their way into your heart. And if you are not careful, if you are not mindful, your mind becomes like a dusty street corner in a busy city where every sound competes to be heard, and you are trapped, lost in the noise. I want you to imagine walking through that marketplace. You see 100 stalls, each calling out, "Buy me. Look at me. Pay attention to me." You are hungry for peace, hungry for purpose, yet you feel pulled in every direction. If you stop for every voice, if you react to every opinion, your energy is scattered. Your peace is stolen. Your focus is fragmented. You spend your life bending to the will of chaos instead of moving steadily toward your own calling. But what if you learned a simple truth? Not every noise deserves your attention. That is the first foundational secret to protecting your mind. Think of your attention like a garden. Every thought you water grows. If you water weeds, complaints, negativity, comparisons, they take over. But if you water seeds of faith, gratitude, and wisdom, your inner garden flourishes. The choice is yours. Let me give you a simple example from everyday life. A young professional wakes up each morning, checks the phone, and is immediately hit with 3 crises at work. A friend's complaint on social media, a comment from a relative about what she should be doing with her life, and the endless stream of notifications that never sleep. By noon, she feels exhausted, her energy depleted, her mind anxious. Yet the world is not actually more chaotic than it was yesterday. It is only that she has been reacting to everything. Every message, every opinion, every passing judgment has been accepted as her responsibility, and her mind has carried the weight of it. Now imagine a different approach. The same person wakes up, breathes, and says, "I will not respond to the noise before I have centered myself. I will decide what deserves my energy." She scrolls less, she listens less to judgmental voices. She acknowledges the world's chaos without absorbing it. Slowly, steadily, her mind becomes a place of focus, a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. And here is a subtle yet profound truth. When you learn to filter the noise, you are not ignoring life. You are choosing life. You are deciding that your mental energy is sacred, a precious resource that should only be spent on things that serve your growth, your purpose, and your peace. And this is where faith enters the story. Spiritually, we are taught that the world will always offer distractions, temptations, criticisms, and fear. But God has placed within you a mind capable of discernment, capable of choosing where to place its attention. When you exercise that choice, you are not only protecting your peace, you are practicing the spiritual discipline of stewardship over your own heart. Every time you refuse to engage with unnecessary noise, you grow stronger. Every time you hold your focus on what matters, you become less reactive, more resilient, and more attuned to the voice of truth within you. And I promise you, my friends, the lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. Each subsequent step builds upon this first truth. Because if you cannot protect your attention, if you cannot filter what enters your mind, the next lessons about starting your day with silence, feeding your mind wisely, and trusting in God cannot take root. But if you embrace this first lesson, you open the door for everything else: clarity, focus, peace, and a mind that can walk through chaos without being consumed by it. And remember, even in small daily moments, choosing not to argue on social media, choosing not to replay an insult in your mind, choosing to focus on gratitude instead of complaint, you are watering the seeds of inner peace. You are sending a signal to your soul: I am the guardian of my mind. I will not surrender it to every passing storm. And slowly, day by day, you will notice a quiet revolution within you, a calmness that does not depend on circumstances, a resilience that cannot be shaken by noise, a clarity that turns chaos into opportunity. Protecting your mind begins with this choice: to listen selectively, to react thoughtfully, to prioritize what truly matters. And if you stay with me through all 7 lessons, I promise you will discover not just strategies, but a transformation that will allow you to walk through the world unshaken, purposeful, and at peace. So let this first step sink deep. Not every noise deserves your attention. Guard your mind, because it is the most sacred space you will ever inhabit. The rest of the journey awaits, and the treasures of these lessons are waiting to bless you, if you hold on and walk with me through each step. Most people wake up in the morning, and the first thing they do is open their phone and see the girl asks it's some tea. Within seconds, their minds are flooded with a tidal wave of information. Messages, news alerts, notifications, posts from people they may barely know. The endless scroll of opinions, comparisons, and demands. And just like that, before breakfast, before prayer, before reflection, the world has already taken over their mind. The mind that should have been the most sacred space in the universe, the space where clarity, peace, and purpose reside, becomes a battlefield. And the irony is that they wake up thinking they are starting the day, but in reality, they have already surrendered it. Imagine a small pond at sunrise. When untouched, it reflects the sky perfectly, calm and serene. But as soon as a stone is thrown, ripples spread across the entire surface. Every notification, every piece of news, every complaint or criticism is like a stone in time. At pond, your thoughts ripple, your emotions ripple, your energy is scattered before you have even taken your first step. But here is the beautiful truth. The way you begin your day sets the tone for everything else. If you start with chaos, chaos will follow you. How? If you start with chaos. If you start with calm, calm will follow you. This is why I urge you, gently, to pause before the world rushes in. Wake up not to the noise, but to silence. Give yourself 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, to sit with your breath, to feel the rising and falling of life within you, to acknowledge the gift of another day. Before your mind is pulled in 100 directions, dedicate this quiet moment to reflection, to gratitude, to God. Because when you start your day with the divine, the world's chaos cannot claim you so easily. I remember a young man I met once, burdened by stress, anxiety, and a constant feeling that life was moving faster than he could keep up. He told me he felt like a leaf, tossed around by the wind, reacting to every gust, never finding his own direction. I asked him, "What is the first thing you do when you wake up?" He laughed nervously. "Check my phone, of course. I have to know what's happening." And I said to him, "Suke, Hashi, and do you notice how your whole day is shaped by what comes from outside instead of what rises from inside?" When he tried waking up 5 minutes earlier than usual, sitting quietly, repeating a prayer of gratitude, and simply observing the stillness before the world arrived, he told me it was like discovering a secret door in his own house, a room he had never known, a national fabs, a room he had never known, filled with light and clarity. That small practice transformed how he faced stress, how he interacted with people, and how he handled challenges. 5 minutes may sound insignificant, but it is the gateway to mastery over your mind. Spiritually, it is no coincidence that so many faith traditions emphasize begin. Engine the day with prayer, meditation, or silent reflection. The divine, the source of all wisdom, never enters a mind that is already distracted, already pulled in 1,000 directions. But when you open your heart first, when you offer your mind in quiet devotion, guidance flows, clarity emerges, and priorities align. And as you nurture this habit, you will notice something subtle yet profound. The chaos of the outside world loses its grip. You respond rather than react. You choose rather than drift. And my friends, this is only the beginning. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. Because the mind that starts the day with peace is the mind that can endure trials without fear, face criticism without bitterness, and make decisions with wisdom instead of impulse. Imagine a sculptor facing a block of marble. If the sculptor begins with clear intention, every stroke chisels beauty out of potential. But if the sculptor hammers aimlessly, distracted by noise, the marble may crack or remain rough and unfinished. Your mind is that marble. How you start your day shapes the masterpiece of your life. And remember, the ripple effect of a calm morning reaches far beyond you. It touches your work, your relationships, your decisions, your interactions. It is as though you are sending a signal to the universe. I will not be consumed by chaos. I choose clarity. I choose peace. I choose God first. And as you hold this space, even for 5 minutes, even for one breath longer than usual, you are practicing the discipline that will carry you through storms. So pause before you reach for your phone. Pause before you let the world define your first thoughts. Pause to center yourself in stillness, in gratitude, in faith. Because this simple act is not just a habit. It is a spiritual armor, a shield that protects your mind from chaos that will inevitably come. And trust me, if you continue through these lessons, you will discover how this one small choice sets the foundation for all the others. Feeding your mind wisely, serving with purpose, trusting God, and finding a calm that no outside turbulence can shake. Every thought you entertain, every idea you dwell upon, every story you replay in your mind is like a morsel of food you feed to your inner self. Just as the body grows strong or weak, depending on what you eat, the mind transforms according to what it consumes. Think about it. If someone eats junk food day after day, their energy falters, their body aches, their health declines. Yet many of us treat our minds far worse, feeding them endless negativity, fear, doubt, and comparison. We scroll through the news, absorb toxic conversations, replay old grievances, and linger over imagined failures. And just as a body weighed down by poor nutrition becomes sluggish and ill, a mind nourished on such chaos becomes anxious, restless, and disoriented. I want you to picture a garden. Every thought you nurture is a seed. Some seeds grow weeds, resentment, envy, worry. Others bloom into flowers, courage, gratitude, wisdom, faith. And here is the challenge. Weeds are insidious. They sprout quietly at first, almost unnoticed, until one day they dominate the entire plot. A mind that is fed constant worry, fear, or gossip may not seem overtly disturbed at first, but slowly, imperceptibly, these toxic seeds shape one's perception of the world. Suddenly, a kind word is ignored, a small blessing overlooked, and life appears harsher than it truly is. Yet the garden can be transformed. The moment you consciously choose what to feed your mind, the weeds begin to fade and flowers start to flourish. I remember meeting a young woman who was caught in a cycle of self-doubt. Each morning, she would scroll through social media, comparing herself to people she barely knew, replaying past mistakes, and worrying about her future. By the time she arrived at work or faced her day, she felt like a shadow of herself, anxious, distracted, and drained. One day, she decided to experiment. Instead of feeding her mind with comparison and criticism, she read a paragraph of inspiring wisdom, recited a short prayer of gratitude, and spent a few moments reflecting on the gifts in her life. Within weeks, she noticed subtle changes. Her mornings were calmer, her decisions clearer, her interactions kinder. The mind that was once a battlefield had become a sanctuary. This is not coincidence. Spiritually, we are taught that the mind is the gateway to all experience. It is the canvas upon which life paints its story. Feed it with fear, doubt, and negativity, and the picture is gray, chaotic, fragmented. Feed it with faith, gratitude, and purpose, and suddenly the same life, the same challenges, the same people, the same circumstances appears illuminated with opportunity, peace, and meaning. And this is precisely why the lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. Because feeding your mind wisely is not just about temporary calm. It is about creating a foundation that supports everything else. Focus, resilience, discipline, and the ability to navigate chaos without losing your center. Let me give you another metaphor. Think of a musical instrument. If it is poorly tuned, it cannot play beautiful music, no matter how skilled the musician is. No matter how skilled the musician is, if the strings are tight, tuned with care, and maintained thoughtfully, the instrument produces harmony effortlessly. Your mind is that instrument. Feed it with the right thoughts, with nourishing ideas, with faith and purpose, and the music of your life resonates beautifully, even amidst external storms. Every day, consciously decide what you consume mentally. Speak affirmations rather than complaints. Read words that inspire rather than degrade. Listen to voices that encourage rather than discourage. And when old sorts of fear or resentment arise, do not judge yourself. Simply observe them, acknowledge them, and return to the nourishment you have chosen. Slowly, over time, this becomes a practice, a discipline, a sacred rhythm. And here is the profound spiritual truth. A mind fed wisely is not just calm, it is aligned with God's purpose. It can see the silver lining in setbacks, find lessons in failures, and recognize blessings hidden within challenges. It becomes a mind that does not merely survive chaos, but transforms it into growth, into opportunity, into clarity. And my friends, the journey does not stop here. As you feed your mind the subsequent lessons, starting your day with silence, controlling reactions, serving others, trusting God, become easier, more natural, and far more powerful. So remember this: every thought you entertain is a morsel. Every story you tell yourself is nourishment. Choose carefully. Be intentional. Feed your mind with what uplifts, enlightens, and strengthens. Protect it from junk that weakens the soul. And know this: the peace, clarity, and resilience you seek are not distant dreams. They are the harvest of the seeds you plant today. Guard your mind, nourish it wisely, and watch how it transforms, not just your day, but your life, in ways that are subtle, yet monumental. The seeds you plant now will blossom into wisdom, faith, and calm that carry you through every storm. Life has a way of testing us, often in ways we cannot anticipate. The world around us is unpredictable, messy, and relentless, and yet we spend so much energy trying to control it. We try to force people to behave the way we want, situations to unfold according to our plan. End outcomes to match our expectations. But here is the harsh truth: the world will never conform to your desires. Storms will arrive when you least expect them. Traffic will slow you down. Colleagues will disappoint. Loved ones may misunderstand you, and circumstances will often feel unfair. The real question, however, is not whether you can control the world. It is whether you can control your response to it. Let me share a story. I once met a man who carried a constant sense of frustration. Every day he found himself angry at small slights, irritated by rude comments, and bitter about circumstances he deemed unjust. He described his life as a series of battles that he had no choice but to fight, and he wondered why he felt so exhausted, so defeated. I asked him a simple question: if someone gave you a gift, but you refused to accept it, who would own the gift? He looked confused and answered, "The person who gave it, I suppose." I said, "Exactly. And now consider this: people offer you anger, criticism, and negativity every day. If you accept it, it becomes yours. If you refuse it, it remains with them." Suddenly, a light seemed to flicker in his eyes. He realized that he had been collecting other people's chaos, carrying burdens that were never meant for him. Life had offered him countless gifts of frustration, and he had accepted each one, making them part of his inner story. The truth is, our responses are the only real territory we can govern. You cannot stop someone from shouting at you, gossiping about you, or criticizing you unfairly. You cannot control the traffic, the economy, the changing seasons, or the mistakes of others. But you can control how you receive those moments. You can choose patience instead of anger, understanding instead of bitterness, faith instead of despair. Imagine a mighty tree standing through a storm. The wind bends its branches, rain lashes its leaves, but the tree's roots hold firm. The tree does not control the storm, but it controls how it endures it. So too, your mind can be rooted in peace, anchored in faith, even when the world around you rages with chaos. Spiritually, this principle is echoed throughout the wisdom of the ages. The masters remind us that we are responsible not for the waves that crash upon us, but for the vessel that carries us. Life will send trials, but the choice is ours. Will we be tossed helplessly, or will we steer our inner ship with intention and grace? I remember another young woman who was overwhelmed by criticism at work. Colleagues dismissed her ideas, her boss questioned her judgment, and she felt like she was drowning in negativity. At first, she reacted with anxiety and defensiveness, trying to argue, explain, and control what she could not. But gradually, She began a simple practice. She acknowledged the criticism, reflected on any truth in it, and then chose to let go of what was irrelevant or unkind. Over time, her inner peace grew, and remarkably, her outer situation shifted as well. Her calm and thoughtful responses inspired respect, collaboration, and understanding. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. Because mastering your response is the foundation for everything else. Once you accept that you cannot control the world, you unlock freedom. You stop wasting energy, resisting the inevitable, and instead, you invest that energy in your own growth, your own peace, and your own purpose. Life becomes less about surviving chaos and more about navigating it gracefully. Let me offer one more metaphor. Imagine a river flowing through a valley. Rocks and fallen branches may appear in its path, and yet the river does not rage against them. It flows around, over, and sometimes even through them, thin. Ding its way to the ocean. Your mind can be like that river. What challenges may obstruct you, people may provoke you, and life may throw surprises your way, but when you cultivate control over your response, you flow steadily, without being stopped, without being broken. And here is the spiritual truth that underpins this entire lesson. God, the source of wisdom and strength, does not promise that the world will bend to your will. But God does promise that your inner life can be anchored in faith, in love, and in peace. When you choose your response, you align yourself with that divine strength. You become resilient, not because the storms have ceased, but because you have learned to stand firm, to bend without breaking, and to move forward with clarity. So, my friends, remember this: you cannot control the world, but you can control your response. Guard this truth closely, because it is the key to freedom, peace, and inner mastery. And as you continue through the rest of these lessons, you will see how controlling your response becomes the bridge to gratitude, service, focus, and faith, allowing you to walk through life's chaos unshaken and purposeful, grounded in the eternal strength that resides within you. Life has a way of overwhelming us, of pulling our attention toward what is missing, what is broken, what is unfair, and what has gone wrong. We wake up, and before the sunlight has touched our faces, our minds are racing with complaints. Why didn't I sleep well? Why is traffic so bad? Why doesn't anyone appreciate me? And without realizing it, this habitual focusing on lack and frustration shapes our entire day. Chaos, as it turns out, often begins not outside, but inside, born from a mind that has forgotten the quiet power of gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote. It is the gentle force that shifts perception, that softens the heart, that turns storms into lasso, and setbacks into opportunities. I want you to imagine a simple morning ritual. A person wakes up, and instead of scrolling through notifications, they pause, joying. They take a breath, feeling the rise and fall of life within them, They notice their heartbeat, the air entering their lungs, the sunlight filtering through the window, and they whisper silently, "Thank you for another day, for this breath, for the chance to try again." This small act, so simple, is transformative. Like sunlight hitting a dark forest floor, gratitude illuminates even the most shadowed corners of our minds. It reveals blessings that had been invisible, opportunities that had been unnoticed, and hope where despair had lingered. I remember meeting a young man who was caught in a relentless cycle of stress. Every day he focused on deadlines, criticism from colleagues, and mistakes from his past. His mind was a storm, and he felt he had no control. One day, I suggested he try something radical. For 1 week, every morning, he would write down 3 things he was grateful for, no matter how small. On the first day, he wrote, "The cup of tea I had this morning, the roof over my head, the friend who smiled at me." By the end of the week, he told me he felt lighter, more present, and even more capable of handling the challenges he had faced daily. Gratitude, you see, does not remove difficulty. But the emails, the traffic, the pressures, they remain. But gratitude changes the lens through which the mind perceives them. A mind steeped in complaint magnifies chaos. A mind steeped in gratitude diminishes it. Spiritually, gratitude is a form of acknowledgement. It is recognizing that life, with all its ups and downs, is a gift. It is the admission that we are not entirely self-sufficient, that we are supported, loved, and held by something greater than ourselves. When we cultivate gratitude, we open ourselves to this divine support, and suddenly, even the heaviest burdens feel lighter. Let me give you another metaphor. Imagine a cup filled with water. Imagine a cup filled with water. If you focus on the dirt floating on the surface, the cup appears contaminated, unfit, and unpleasant. But if you notice the water itself, the fact that you have water to drink at all, the cup transforms in your perception from a burden into a blessing. Gratitude does this for the mind. It changes perspective, it invites clarity, it allows joy to exist even amidst challenges. And here is the important truth. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them, because gratitude is the soil in which every other principle grows. Without it, faith struggles to hold, focus wavers, service becomes obligation, and peace remains fleeting. With it, however, gratitude becomes the anchor that allows all the other lessons. Silence, mindfulness, controlled response, service, faith to flourish naturally. Consider a person who has been wronged, hurt, or ignored. Their first instinct may be resentment, bitterness, or complaint, but the moment they pause and find even a sliver of gratitude, the sun on their face, the warmth of a cup of tea, the kindness of someone who smiled, they create space in their heart where the poison of chaos cannot fully settle. Gratitude does not deny difficulty, but it reframes it. It whispers to the mind, this too is a gift, or at least a lesson, or a step toward growth. And when practiced daily, gratitude accumulates like compounding interest. Small acknowledgements of blessings, often invisible at first, build up over time, creating a deep reservoir of peace, resilience, and perspective. The storms of life may still come, but the person anchored in gratitude is not tossed helplessly. They navigate, adapt, and even grow stronger through them. So, my friends, let this truth sink deeply. Chaos cannot thrive where gratitude grows. Begin each day with thanks. Cultivate a heart that notices, and train your mind to see abundance rather than lack. And as you continue through these lessons, you will find that gratitude is the thread that weaves them all together, turning daily practice into transformation. When you master this, peace becomes your companion, clarity becomes your guide, and even life's chaos bows gently to the calm that resides within. Many of the storms that rage within our minds are not caused by the outside world. They are born from the self. The ego, subtle and persistent, whispers constantly, "What about me? Why wasn't I noticed? Why didn't I get the credit I deserve? Why is life treating me unfairly?" And if we listen too closely, our mind becomes a storm of frustration, pride, and resentment. The irony is that we often think we are protecting ourselves by focusing on our own needs, our own recognition, at the team, our own comfort. But in reality, the more we feed the ego, the louder it becomes, and the more chaotic our inner world grows. I want you to imagine a small candle in a dark room. If the candle burns brightly, it can illuminate the space, guiding you and others through darkness. Yes, but if the candle is hidden under a jar of self-absorption, the room remains dark, and both you and those around you stumble in confusion. Service is the act of lifting the jar. When we turn our attention outward, offering our time, energy, love, and kindness to others without expectation, something miraculous happens. The ego quiets, and the mind becomes calm. I remember meeting a man who had achieved success in every conventional sense: wealth, recognition, accolades, but he carried an undercurrent of restlessness and dissatisfaction. He admitted that no achievement seemed to satisfy him, that every success only stoked the desire for more recognition. One day, he began volunteering at a small shelter, helping children learn to read, listening to their stories, and simply being present. At first, he saw it as a duty, but gradually, he noticed a shift within himself. The constant self-talk that had dominated his mind, the comparisons, the complaints, the hunger for attention began to fade. In its place came a quiet joy, a lightness, and a sense of purpose he had never known. Serving others without expectation or obligation had silenced the loudest voices of his ego. Spiritually, this principle has been emphasized in every tradition. True peace and humility are cultivated when we step outside ourselves. When we focus on contribution rather than consumption, on giving rather than receiving, we experience a freedom that cannot be found through personal achievement alone. Life becomes less about proving who we are and more about living in alignment with who we were meant to be. Imagine a river flowing to nourish a parched land. The river does not ask for praise. it does not demand recognition. The river does not demand recognition. It simply flows, giving life whatever it reaches. In the same way, when we serve, our hearts are nourished, our minds find clarity, and our ego diminishes quietly but powerfully. And here is the truth that ties all of this together. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. Because service prepares the mind for peace, gratitude, and faith. Without humility and the willingness to give, no matter how much we practice mindfulness or control our reactions, our inner life remains incomplete. Consider a person who spends their days in pursuit of praise, constantly seeking validation, and yet never feeling satisfied. Every slight, every criticism, every overlooked effort becomes a wound. Now contrast that with someone who focuses on others, helping a colleague without expecting thanks, mentoring a friend without reward, comforting a stranger without recognition. Their mind is lighter, their heart freer, their perspective broader. The noise of life is still present, but it cannot penetrate the calm that grows when service becomes a habit. And the beauty is this: the more you serve, the more perspective you gain. You begin to see that your problems are not as insurmountable as they seemed. You discover that the world does not revolve around your desires alone. And slowly, a deeper understanding emerges that true satisfaction is not found in being recognized, but in recognizing the needs of others and meeting them with love. Serving others is not about martyrdom. It is about liberation. It is the art of quieting the mind, free eyeing the heart, and aligning yourself with a force greater than the self. And as you continue on this journey, you will find that the ego, once so loud, becomes a soft whisper, allowing gratitude, faith, and purpose to flourish. So remember this deeply: the mind that serves is a mind that is protected from chaos. The heart that gives is a heart that finds peace. And as we move toward the final lessons, you will see how this principle amplifies every other truth: focus, gratitude, trust, and divine alignment. Hold on to this, because the transformation it brings is profound, subtle, and permanent if you practice it with sincerity, humility, and consistency. Serve others not for recognition, but to free yourself, to quiet the inner storms, and to open the door to a life of calm, purpose, and spiritual fulfillment. In the midst of life's chaos, with its endless demands, distractions, and uncertainties, there lies a truth so simple yet so profound that it can transform everything. Put God first. It sounds simple, almost deceptively easy to say, but living it is a discipline, a conscious choice, a daily act of surrender. Most of us rush through life trying to arrange everything according to our own plans. Our career, our relationships, our finances, our reputation. And yet, no matter how much effort we exert, the pieces rarely fit perfectly. The moments of frustration, confusion, and anxiety tell us that something is missing, that perhaps the world's puzzle cannot be completed by our hands alone. I want you to imagine building a house without a blueprint. You may have the finest materials, the strongest beams, the most skilled workers, but without a plan, without a vision, the structure wavers. Some walls lean, some rooms never quite align, and no matter how hard you work, the house feels unstable. Putting God first is like taking the time to study the blueprint before lay. Young a single brick. It is consulting the ultimate wisdom, the eternal guide, the source of all order and purpose, before we attempt to construct the life we imagine. I remember a young woman who had spent years pursuing success by worldly standards, accolades, wealth, recognition. Yet she felt a hollow ache inside, a sense that no matter how much she achieved, she was still chasing something elusive. One day, she decided to begin each morning with quiet prayer, reading sacred text, and reflecting on her purpose in the larger scheme of life. She didn't abandon her ambitions or responsibilities, but she consciously aligned them with the guidance and values she found in God. Within months, her perspective shifted profoundly. Decisions became clearer, relationships more harmonious, and even challenges seemed surmountable because she was no longer working alone. She was moving in partnership with the divine order of life. And this is the lesson that underpins everything we have discussed. When God is first, your mind is protected from chaos. Your ego finds humility. Gratitude becomes natural. Service becomes effortless. Service becomes effortless. And your responses are measured and wise. It is as if the river of your life, once struggling against rocks and obstacles, suddenly finds a channel carved by a greater hand, allowing the waters to flow smoothly toward their destination. Spiritually, putting God first is not merely about ritual or routine. It is about surrender, trust, and alignment. It is about acknowledging that while we cannot control the world, and while we cannot always master our circumstances, we can anchor ourselves in something eternal, something beyond the fluctuations of daily life. And when we do, the paradox becomes clear. The more we let go of trying to control everything, the more everything begins to fall into place. The bills still arrive, the deadlines still loom, people still disappoint, and challenges still come, but the inner turmoil that once accompanied these events is transformed into clarity, patience, and purpose. Let me give you another metaphor. A skilled conductor leading an orchestra does not attempt to play every instrument themselves. Instead, they align the musicians, set the rhythm, and guide the harmony. The music is beautiful, not because of force, but because of attuned direction. In the same way, when we put God first, we align our inner selves with a rhythm that orchestrates our life in harmony, even amidst apparent chaos. And here is the subtle truth that will carry you beyond these words. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. Because this principle is the culmination of all that has come before. Mindfulness, focus, gratitude, controlled responses, service. All of these practices reach their highest potential
when anchored in divine guidance. When you wake each morning and place God first,
you are laying the foundation of a life where chaos no longer rules, where purpose replaces confusion, where peace outweighs fear, and where joy blooms even in adversity. Even in the smallest daily choices, how you speak to someone, how you respond to disappointment, how you spend your moments. This alignment transforms the mundane into sacred, the ordinary into extraordinary, the fleeting into eternal. So, my friends, remember this deeply. Put God first, not as an afterthought, not as a convenience, but as the central compass of your life. Everything else, your goals, your work, your relationships, your dreams, will find its rightful place around this anchor. Chaos may still swirl, challenges may still arrive, but you will stand firm, guided, calm, and purposeful, knowing that the unseen hand that orders the universe is also at work in your life. And when you combine this truth with all the lessons we have explored, you do not merely survive the storms, you transcend them. You walk through life with a heart at peace, a mind uncluttered, and a spirit aligned with the ultimate source of strength, wisdom, and love. Put God first and watch how the pieces of your life, once scattered and confusing, begin to fall into a pattern of divine beauty, harmony, and purpose. As we draw this journey to a close, pause for a moment and feel the weight of what you have discovered. Each lesson, each reflection is not just advice. It is a map, a compass for navigating the storms and chaos of life. Your mind, when protected from the noise of the world, becomes a sanctuary. Your thoughts, when carefully fed, bloom like flowers in a well-tended garden. Your responses, when measured and rooted in wisdom, allow you to stand firm even as the world swirls around you. Gratitude softens the heart and illuminates the blessings you may have overlooked. Service quiets the ego, opening space for peace and joy to flourish. And when God is placed at the center of every choice, every thought, every action, everything else begins to fall into divine alignment. Life will still challenge you. Storms will still come. People may still disappoint. But when you anchor yourself in these truths, you are no longer tossed about helplessly. You are steady, resilient, and purposeful. You begin to see that even the difficulties, the setbacks, the delays are part of a larger orchestration, a perfect unfolding that, if trusted, guides you exactly where you are meant to be. And now, I want to leave you with this. The final lessons contain the most powerful keys. Don't miss them. There is an energy, a rhythm, a divine order in life that cannot be grasped by force or by worry. But it can be felt, it can be embraced, and it can transform the ordinary into extraordinary. You are capable of this transformation today, in this very moment, simply by choosing to act on what you've learned. So start putting God first today and watch how your life begins to transform. Carry this awareness forward and share it with someone who needs it, because the gift of insight multiplies when it is passed on.
Apply these lessons now, because waiting will only delay the transformation that is already waiting for you.
Let your mind find calm, let your heart embrace gratitude, let your actions serve others, and let your spirit align with the divine. And remember, every day, every choice, every thought is an opportunity to live these truths.
The chaos of the world may never fully disappear, but when your inner life is anchored in faith, clarity, and purpose, you are free. You are at peace.
You are on your path. And that, my friends, is the most powerful truth of all.